And too many people are on Reddit on Student Doctor Network asking everyone else what life they should live. Ask Dr. Gray Pre-Med Q&A brought to you by Blueprint MCAT. How are you doing today?
Good.
What can I help you with?
Friday.
Yeah, it is a Friday as we're recording this. What can I help you with?
Yeah, so I guess I had a big question about whether I should go to a master's program for my gap years.
Okay.
Or should I stay in the lab? So basically just gap year choices.
Yeah.
So the situation for me is that I got into a pretty good program. It's called the Master of Biomedical Informatics program at Harvard Medical School.
Okay.
It was at the medical school, but it's just a master's program.
Yep.
Versus I could have a choice to work. I'm from UC San Diego, so I can work in my lab for 2 more years.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I was really just struggling about which one should I choose, because obviously the master's program would cost well over $100,000. Yeah.
Oh
crazy.
my God.
I mean, it's
Lord
Harvard,
have mercy. Oh, who cares if it's Harvard? Like, oh yeah. So all right, let's just leave tuition out of it.
Okay.
What is the goal of doing a master's in bioinformatics?
I like bioinformatics, and I think if I get into MD PhD or just MD, that'll be my research focus.
Okay.
One of the area that I'm really interested in, and I guess, yeah, that's just very interesting. And also the reputations, I guess. Also, if I didn't get into medical school, and I'll at least have a master's program. I have a master's degree.
Well, do you want to be a physician, or do you want to be a bioinformatician? I forget the name. Informatician.
Yeah, correct. So I kind of want to be both, but
well, you can be both, right? Bioinformatics is
right.
it's kind of a specialty of the medical field these days.
Yeah. Kind of want to be both because, well, I probably wouldn't give up research, and then because there's so much things to work on, there's so much things to create in the field, but I also want to know about like what the patients want, what is actually the patients, like gathering patient data through the physician side, and also I really like just like treating others. Sounds a lot more fun than doing pure research.
Do you get clinical experience now?
Yeah, I started last year about volunteering at the hospital.
Okay.
But shadowing, I've been doing your online shadowing for sure. Thanks for the opportunity. But then
you're welcome.
It was really hard for me to get any shadowing because the program was suspended.
Okay. So the Masters of Bioinformatics is interesting because you're interested in that.
Yeah.
And it has the Harvard name attached to it.
And it's a medical school.
And what?
And it was at the Harvard Medical School specifically.
Well, yeah, the Harvard name, the Harvard Medical School name. Yeah. But it's a lot of money.
Plus,
versus
I will earn money while staying in the lab. So
versus what you're doing now, you're making money now.
Yeah.
Working in a lab.
Yes.
Getting experience. And what are you doing in the lab?
Some rabbit studies.
Okay.
Some orthopedics.
Okay.
Some knees studies.
So if you're interested in bioinformatics, why not go find a informatics specialist at UCSD that you can shadow, potentially start doing some research with, so that you're getting informatics experience now, if that's what you're interested in.
Yeah, well, I've been doing informatics research also since throughout my senior year. I just graduated, by the way, and then I got like 2 papers published for bioinformatics, and then I mean I can work at the lab as well. But then so fun fact is I had this struggle when like a month, 2 months ago. But then by then I had to make my decisions. Finally, I chose to go to Harvard, but I was struggling.
So. Yeah. Wait, so you're asking me a question you've already made the decision?
I just think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then well, originally when I type down my answers, when I type down my questions for you, that was still a question. But then over
Ah,
time, when you schedule the meeting for me, it was after the
it was
decisions already.
after you made the decision. Okay,
Yeah,
so you're coming on. Decision's already been made. All right, you spoiled it. You should have saved that for
I'm
later.
sorry. I'm sorry.
So it's interesting, right?
Yeah,
The tuition for me is a non-starter.
it
Like
was okay.
that much tuition, it's not worth it for me.
Okay,
But that's my decision, right?
you're right.
And you have to weigh the decisions for yourself. Maybe you're in a different financial position than I am, and you're like, it's fine. I mean, it's a lot of money, and it's it's okay. The the ability to go to Harvard Medical School to get this degree may potentially open up some doors for you that will change the direction of your career.
Right.
That's a potential,
Yeah,
right? You also could go to Harvard, you could go to Boston and get hit by a bus the next day, right?
you're right.
You
You're
never
right.
know. So this
Yeah.
is the part of the process that you really don't know what the alternative is because you can only pick one thing.
Mhm.
And you move forward with that and you'll never know what the alternative look like. So as long as you're comfortable with the decision that you made, you're excited about it, it's what you want to do and you're not doing it to check some boxes or whatever,
Mhm.
great. That's awesome. And that's the fun part about this process. I think one of my goals is to get people to tell their own story. And to be
Yeah.
able to tell your own story, you have to live your own life.
Yeah.
Right? And too many people are on Reddit, on Student Doctor Network, asking everyone else what life they should live.
Mhm.
And you made the decision for you based on the information you had at hand and said, okay, here's the tuition, here's the pros and cons and all of that stuff. And you said, I'm going to Harvard.
Yeah. And how much do you think the med schools or when I apply to MD programs will see these degrees? For example, it's not just a normal degree, I guess it's a medical related degrees, but it's also not a post-bac. So
It is not a post-bac, right? So it's not going to be hard sciences.
no.
Do you need help with your GPA?
Well, okay, so there's a little more background. I'm also a little not trying to
Rewind.
yeah, I'm international students,
Okay.
which I'm not sure if that's rare. I get it's pretty rare to
It's
apply
not
to
very
Harvard.
rare. I talk to lots
It's
of
not very
international
rare.
students.
Yeah, and I think you always need the best GPA, near 4.0 GPA for international students to get into any medical school.
You don't have to.
Yeah, but
It
you'll be
helps.
great. Yeah, and then I have I guess, solid 3.8 or above
Okay, so your
3.8.
GPA is fine. Your GPA is fine.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Your GPA is fine. So
Okay.
will the masters help? Probably not.
Okay.
From a GPA,
So
you can't really help a 3.8. Your GPA is fantastic.
okay. So it's more like I can talk more about my story, my interest.
Yeah, it'll be about your interest. You're doing it, and this is again, live your life for you, not for the medical schools, not for the admissions committee. You led with and talked about your interest in informatics.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
it makes sense that you're interested in studying more about informatics. So you have this program. You're not doing it to improve a GPA, even though if you get A's, it's going to help in some way potentially just to show more coursework and a good GPA from Harvard Medical School. But at the end of the day, you want to be learning about informatics because that's what you're interested in. So that ultimately is what's going to matter the most, because someone at an admissions committee will be their hospital's informatician. I always forget the name. They're informatics specialists. I've had a couple informatics specialists on Specialty Stories. If you haven't heard those, you should go listen
Really?
to those. Yeah. So Specialty Stories is my podcast version, basically, of e-shadowing. And I've had a couple informatics specialists on Specialty Stories. So the fact that someone out there will look at that and go, oh, this is really cool. That's obviously my passion too. I would love to talk to you and see what your interests are.
Yeah, that's exactly my thought after, like, when I was deciding. I watched a lot of your YouTube videos, and then you always mention about talking about my own stories instead of trying to sell myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess along with that, that means that I would have 2 more years of research.
Okay.
I've been doing research since my freshman year, actually. So by the time I apply, it will be like 5 years of research
Yep.
versus only like 2 years of clinical experience. Experience. I know that will be, I guess that will be great for MD PhD programs that I'll apply to. But for normal MD programs, how do I make it sound less like researcher, more of a clinician?
You don't. So this is again, you listen to some of my advice about being yourself, but you're ignoring being yourself for this question, right? You can't hide who you are. Who you are is someone who has a lot of research experience. And that's going to come through on your application, whether you're applying MD, PhD, or just MD.
Okay.
And you can't be apologetic about that. That's just who you are. That's what your interests are, and that's perfectly fine.
Okay.
So as long as you're getting the clinical experience, shadowing, et cetera, that shows you're passionate about patient care too, and making a difference in patients' lives directly, not just indirectly through research, then I don't think you'll have any issues at all.
So for shadowing experience, if I only have online shadowing, do you think that will be a disadvantage?
Yeah.
Definitely. Okay.
Well, not definitely, but I think it will.
Okay. How
Especially
much?
if you're not applying for another year or so. Right?
Okay.
We're at a stage of the pandemic where there are plenty of opportunities to shadow in person. You may have to ask 20, 30 people, but you can find shadowing.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try my best. I think there are plenty in Boston, hopefully.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So can I ask you also some question about the MCAT?
Yeah.
Okay. I plan on taking the MCAT. I already scheduled for the MCAT August the 27th. So, but then I'm also taking summer courses, so I have less than a month
August 27th of this year, so next month.
this year. Yeah, next month.
But if you're doing a master's program that's 2 years long, you'll apply a year into it. So you're not going to be applying until
Next year.
2024?
No, I'm gonna apply next year.
So
And
when is the master's program starting? Like next month as well?
actually, yeah.
Next semester, right? The fall of
next
2022
fall,
as
yeah.
we're recording this. So 2022, 2023. Okay. So you'll start and apply. Got it. Okay. So you're applying next year, taking the MCAT August of this year. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure the timeline works so that you didn't take the MCAT too early so that the score expires if you had any issues.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I'll be applying next year. So.
Okay.
Yeah. But then I'll have less than a month to study, and then
Have you been studying or no?
I tried, but I'm
What do
also
you mean
taking
try?
courses.
Yoda says, try not, do or do not.
Yeah, I do or do not. Yeah, there's no try.
There is no try. Yeah, I left the
Okay.
end out because everyone knows the end.
Yeah.
Why haven't you been studying?
I've been taking all the pre-med courses, but
Okay.
I'm bioinformatics major, so I have
Okay.
to take 13 more courses.
Okay. So you're busy.
I'm quite busy. Also taking doing research, but then
Okay. But you've graduated now.
I just graduated.
You just graduated. And now you have a month or so before the MCAT. Have you taken a diagnostic?
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
It's bad for everyone. Don't worry. Yeah. So, I mean, if I were in your shoes, I would just push back the MCAT. There's no reason to take it next month. Right?
Yeah, I was scared of not doing well as well.
Yeah. Obviously, you're not going to know what your master's program kind of requirements and schedule are going to look like, or rigor is going to look like. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be super busy. It could be very tolerable.
Yeah.
And so potentially reach out to some students who are there and say, hey, if I want to take the MCAT March of next year, kind of in your spring semester, what does that look like?
Okay.
Ask the program. Maybe they'll have some information for you. You go, oh, yeah, no. Every student here takes the MCAT during, and they're fine, and they're not super stressed.
Yeah, I talked to a student already.
Okay.
on the same program. She was also taking the MCAT during the Christmas break.
Okay.
So during the New Year's, June, something like that. She said, I don't think she has time to study it that much throughout the school year. So I guess if I push it back, that will be quite similar to the situation right now with just
Potentially, and I'll tell you to just take one person's experience with a grain of salt,
okay,
because you don't know what type of student she is. She
exactly,
may
yeah.
be someone who needs to study all the time to do well. She may be
Mhm.
so try to get as many experiences as possible, kind of big picture, what does it look like?
Okay.
Because half of the people may say, "Oh, it's totally doable." The other half will be like, "Oh no, it's too much." So you never know. And then you
Okay.
have to then take that and integrate it into who you are. Right? It
Okay.
sounds like you're a pretty good student with everything that you have going on with a 3.8 GPA, and you
I
may
try
have
my
to
best.
work really hard to do that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's doable with the masters and MCAT.
Okay. But then there's no point taking it now by the end of August.
Not that there's no point. There's no point in adding that much stress to you
Okay. Hmm.
to only prep for 1 month and not needing to take it in August because you're not applying until next year.
Okay.
Now, if you kind of take a step back, again, live your own life, if you take a step back and go, when I'm in Boston and I'm in my master's degree, I only want to focus on my master's degree. I want to take the MCAT now. And if you look at your schedule and look at everything else, and you can kind of clear off your schedule and only focus on the MCAT for a month, it may be very doable for you.
Okay.
You have to do that self-reflection to see
Okay.
what is best for you in that situation.
Thank you so much for this advice. I think I think it'll be best for me to just delay it. I've been really, really stressed, like
Yeah.
8 a.m. to 1 a.m. schedules.
Yeah, that is a lot. When you are ready, what you can do, go to blueprintmcat.com,
Okay.
create a free account if you haven't already, and use their study planner tool, which is part of their free account, just
Yep.
to see what it may look like. To say, hey, what does a 1 month study schedule look like? Is this doable? Is this not doable? And then go and make a 6 month and just which one feels better to you.
Can I ask you another question?
Yeah.
So I think in my experience, I've been talking to other students as well, medical students as well. They said that I might need some clinically related community volunteering experience. For example, like local clinics
Mm-hmm.
to help out or just help out with the community with like minorities and people. But then I feel like I'm checking the box again
Yeah.
if I like force myself to do it.
Yeah,
But
the things that I worry about the most are, do you have clinical experience? Now, clinical can be paid or
Mhm.
volunteer. So clinical doesn't have, you don't have to have, if you're a nurse, for example, you don't have to also then go volunteer in some sort of community health clinic. You don't need to do that. Clinical is clinical, paid or volunteer. That doesn't matter. And then shadowing. I want to make sure you're getting some shadowing.
Okay.
On top of that, then there's research, which you're fine with, and I think is overrated for most pre-med students. There is normal non-clinical volunteering, like going to the homeless shelter, going to a soup kitchen, going to doing Habitat for
exactly.
Humanity stuff. Again, those are nice to haves. It's great as a person to go do those things to kind of fill your heart with joy and just contribute to your community.
Yeah.
There are some medical schools that want to see that, but again, from overall, most medical schools, you'll be fine if you don't have much of that, if any.
Okay. So I don't need to try too hard to
You're very busy as it is. It sounds like.
sounds good. Thanks. Also, before applying, how about what if I'm missing like one or two courses?
That's fine. Yeah,
When
you just need to make sure that whatever classes you're missing, you can take before you matriculate. So it's completely normal, just because a traditional application timeline, students are applying end of junior year
Yeah.
when they still have a year of classes left to take, and some of those classes are prereqs. So the far majority of schools, I think there was one school, and I forget what school it was at this point, but there was one school I think that I saw where it's like you have to have your prereqs done before you apply. But that's not the norm.
Last questions.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for answering all those questions.
Yeah.
And then, so in my applications, should I heavily emphasize my interest in bioinformatics and computer science, or should I just like talk about like what I have been doing, and then kind of let them to guess like my interest in bioinformatics? Because I think that would be a shiny point for me, like distinctions. I'm not sure. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so my general philosophy is there's nothing that you're going to put on an application where somebody goes, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen this before."
Sure.
Right? So there are lots of students interested in bioinformatics at this point. And so the fact that you have been doing it, you're doing research, your degrees in it, you're going to have lots of courses around it, that alone will show your interest. So when you put on your activities, research in bioinformatics, you're going to talk about those passions there in the activity section. Okay. You don't need to then go and add other stuff that's like, oh, by the way, blah, 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 right? Again, just tell your story. That will come out naturally.
Just one question that come out of my mind.
I love it.
You mentioned in other podcasts or videos, you mentioned about shadowing. As long as you have like 20, 40 hours, they'll be all right. No more than that. Should I aim to do at least like 20, 40? Because some physicians only have you for like a day, and that's it.
Yeah, and then, get what you can get. Consistency and recency to me are very important. So if you can get like a half a day every few months, that's great.
Yeah, that's all the questions I have.
Well, thanks for coming on, and good luck with the move to Boston and your time hanging out in the Harvard Medical School area.
Yeah, thank you. Fun fact, I'll also be living with all the medical students.
That's awesome.
I think they'll be stressful.
Maybe you can participate in their kind of annual parody song competition. If you don't know what that is, go onto YouTube and do Harvard Medical School parody song.
Oh, I see that. They're the one
they're big with that.
Like Stanford, and then Stanford rolls back.
Yeah.
Like that, right? Okay. Cool.
You got it.
Thanks so much, Dr. Gray.